Hello and welcome to the Father and Son F1 podcast. This is the Singapore episode. I'm the father in the title, Graham Miller, and this is my son, Toby.
Hello.
So we're going to be talking about the Singapore weekend, which I'll admit we've had kind of busy lives since then, and there's been,
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you call it, the autumn break?
Yeah, it's weird. Not normally something that happens.
I'll tell you what's weird is that everybody goes, oh, it's the summer break, what's going to happen? Then they have 3 weeks off in the autumn and nobody calls it the autumn break.
Yeah, because it's not written into the rules, I think. I think the summer break is a bit more protected. It might be in the Concord Agreement. I think
probably.
This is just a quirk of the calendar.
For this year, yeah.
But I mean, if I was in charge of the teams, I would tell all my, employees to go and see their families again.
I think they have
at least
been.
A week. Yeah.
I mean, I've seen Lewis Hamilton is a sponsor of the Met Gala in New York.
He's a chair.
Yeah, he does a lot with it.
He always goes. Normally, I'm just having a look.
Valtteri Bottas has been cycling because I think his girlfriend, wife, life partner, fiance is a very prominent cyclist. So I think he's been doing races with her.
He did a gravel race.
Yeah, that was it.
Very Finnish sort of thing to do.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff happening around and about.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the drivers have just gone, oh my god, we can have a tiny break.
Yeah. Maybe that's actually a way of making the longer calendars with more races a little bit more sustainable.
Yeah.
It's just because obviously if it was like 10 triple headers in a row, everybody would burn out very quickly.
Yeah, well, it's not 30 races, but yeah.
Not yet.
No, but you're right. If it was like double header week, it would be.
Yeah, I remember in 2018 they did the first ever triple header.
Yeah.
And everyone was like, oh my god, is it too much for the drivers? Is it too much for the teams? And now they'll do like 2 or 3 in a row.
Yeah, and especially with Singapore, which is very hot, very humid. It's a street circuit with no runoff, so you've really got to be...
The same is true of Baku as well, actually.
Yeah, 100% on it.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Did much happen in the free practices, or... I don't think anything...
Was there a lizard this year?
There was a lizard. Was that Baku?
No, it was definitely Singapore. Because I missed the lizard this time.
Oh, yeah, I missed it, but I saw all the kind of memes about how the lizard is placed at this.
Yeah, it had been there before. I think it was 2018 or 17. There was a big lizard as well on the track, so it's not out of the question.
And was this the first or second or third race for Colapinto?
Third, because he had Italy.
Yeah.
And then he had Baku, where he scored a bunch of points. And then he had this race where Perez was behind him, and he said he was very good and very difficult to overtake.
Yeah. Yeah, we'll talk about that more when we get onto the race, I think. Oh, yeah, 2024 Italian. Oh, he's the first Formula One driver from Argentina since...
Not Fangio.
No, Gaston Mazzacane.
Oh, yes, of course. How could I have forgotten him?
He last raced in 2001.
Yes, that's the year I was born.
Yeah, that's fair enough. And I don't think he's like one of the greats, really, is he?
Let's see, how many points did he score?
No. He had 21 entries and zeros all down the board.
He was driving for Minardi, to be fair.
Yeah, fair enough. Anyway, as always, we're rambling a little.
Yeah, so...
qualifying was a far more exciting event.
Yeah?
I think the Big Eight actually struggled through to Q3, didn't they?
Perez didn't, did he? Perez ended up 13th.
Oh.
Let me just have a look. Yeah, 2 Saubers last. Alpine, Lance Stroll, Daniel Ricciardo, Ocon, Magnussen, who's back now.
Oh, there's our favourite. Perez out-qualified by Colapinto.
Yeah, continuing the proud tradition of the second Williams seat. I mean, 12th for
Albon
Colapinto is pretty good. It was very close to Albon all session.
He really has got the measure of Albon already. I think he's going to be somebody to... I don't think he's going to be like Mazzacane, where it's like, oh yeah, he had 20 races and 0 points or podiums.
Well, he's not, because he's already outscored Mazzacane.
Oh, fair enough.
So he's already the best Argentinian driver in well over 20 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So who were the three? RB, Yuki Tsunoda, Alonso, and Hulkenberg for Haas.
Could have been the nail in the coffin for Ricciardo, was Tsunoda coming in qualifying 8th to Ricciardo 16th.
Yeah, I mean the whole weekend was kind of weird because everybody in the paddock, all the press corps, knew that basically this was Ricciardo's last race weekend with RB.
Including Ricciardo.
Including Ricciardo himself. And it was formally confirmed, I'm going to say on the Tuesday or Wednesday after they all got home.
Yeah, it was a while later. May have even been a week later.
But it just seems a bit unfair, really. I mean, Ricciardo's been there for 13 or 14 seasons. He's an immensely popular...
Maybe more like 10 seasons, I think. 10 or 12.
Yeah, he's an immensely popular driver. And it seems to not give him that kind of big goodbye and a chance to do press conferences and even a chance for the team to say, well, thank you for everything you've done.
Yeah. They didn't really do anything except just like a couple posts on social media. And that was it. They didn't let him do donuts or... They gave him the fastest lap.
Yeah, we'll get onto that in a bit when we do the race, because that was a bit... Yeah, he's got 258 starts.
He's up there.
No, 2011 British GP he entered and 2024 Singapore. So that is 13 seasons.
But he missed a season.
Oh yeah, had one out for 12.
He's been in the world of Formula One for 13 years. That's pretty safe to say.
And actually, when he got retired, shall we say, I went back and I looked over his stats, and there were 2 years where he was the best of the rest for Red Bull. Beating 1 Vettel and 2 Verstappen.
Which, to be clear, that's 7 championships worth already, probably more.
And it's kind of like the Schumacher effect, where he had all these really good drivers. It was the Mercedes effect. It was when Mercedes were utterly dominating. It was something like 2013 and 2016.
Well, he made his way to Red Bull in 2014.
Yeah.
And he was kind of there and thereabouts, but he got 3 wins in 2014. He just had no chance to challenge for the championship.
But he beat Vettel. Well, he beat everybody apart from the 2.
Yeah, which is
Mercedes
ridiculous,
drivers
actually, in his first season.
In a competitive car. And I think he did the same in 2016.
Yeah, he did. But again, only 1 victory, because the Mercedes is dominated.
Yeah. And it's kind of a bit... He's kind of like the right driver in the wrong car at the wrong time, isn't he?
I mean, there is an alternate universe somewhere where Ricciardo is at least a one-time champion.
If not a 2. Yeah, he definitely had it.
If he'd been called up a year or 2 earlier, he probably could have taken it to Vettel.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just... Yeah. And then he kind of kept getting unlucky because he moved to Renault. And then he moved to McLaren, where he really struggled for some reason.
Yeah.
Just with the car itself, I think.
Yeah. Anyway, we're getting a bit off topic.
Yeah.
Qualifying was absolutely horrific for Ferrari.
Yeah.
They did get both cars into Q3, but then Sainz put his in the wall, as we said, very hot, very hard to concentrate. You get an inch or 2 out and you're toast, and that's exactly what he did.
Yeah, he also got a fine for walking back across the track.
Yeah, live track. And then they had 8 minutes, did you say, of qualifying 3.
Yeah. Left.
And somehow Leclerc got his time deleted, but there isn't really many places you can go off track, so...
There's a couple curbs I think you can take.
Yeah.
But yeah, it got his time deleted. So they got into Q3 and then that was about it.
And then they
might as well have not run, to be honest. It would have saved petrol.
And carbon fibre.
Yeah.
9th and 10th. Norris came a very strong first.
2/10 on Verstappen.
In, I think, every session, actually. Oh, no. Verstappen was fastest in Q2.
They were very close. But then he dipped down to 129.5.
The two Mercedes came up in third and fourth, which was a good result.
Yeah, good for
Piastri
Hamilton.
somehow. And again, this is the story of this whole season. Piastri only got fifth, but he was basically 4/10 off his teammate.
Yeah, again, a couple of years ago, that would have been one position behind.
Yeah, I mean, the top 7 were in a second.
Yeah, we've seen we've seen the whole field, I think, within a second at some tracks.
Yeah.
It's ridiculously close now.
It's much, much harder kind of environment. But yeah, Piastri, and especially on a circuit like that, one mistake or one bad sector, and Hulkenberg really impressed, getting the Haas into 6th.
I mean, he's been really good in the Haas this year. He's been kind of carrying the team a bit.
Well, like I said, after Hamilton came up, I'm sure Hulkenberg was the next big thing after Hamilton.
Because in 2010 he was with Williams and he got a pole position.
Yeah.
And he was, young and very exciting. He's just never quite, kind of like Ricciardo, but at a lower level.
Yeah.
Look at Perez as well. Perez was kind of like that. He had occasional podiums. Then he got his first win in that Racing Point in 2020, and then he got to Red Bull and started winning. I think Hulkenberg could do that if he got into the right team. He could be a kind of leading level driver.
I think with Perez as well, when he got into the Red Bull, it really was a case of, for whatever reason, and we have discussed this before, Verstappen Red Bull machine tends to chew up and spit out teammates.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of Verstappen teammates have left the sport. I think Ricciardo left for 1 year after he left. Kvyat left altogether, I think.
Yeah, Kvyat left. Sainz was with him when they were at Toro Rosso, and he's actually stayed. But Gasly was never really the same. Both Gasly and Albon left the Red Bull family altogether, actually, to think about it.
Yeah, and Sainz did.
Yeah. And now Ricciardo's out.
Yeah. It
Perez.
really is like a bad place to be a teammate. And I think when they got Perez in, it was a question of, let's get somebody a little bit older.
Yeah.
A bit more experience who can actually put up with the pressure.
Yeah.
And he's probably Max Verstappen's longest serving teammate.
I think he is now, actually, yeah. I think
That
they might
wouldn't
be,
surprise me.
in terms of races, because the seasons have been getting longer, I
Yeah.
think they're in the top 5 longest pairings ever now. Most races together.
Yeah.
They're up there with, I think it's Barrichello, Schumacher. Could be Hamilton, Bottas, and Hamilton Button, I think, are up there.
Yeah. Hamilton Rosberg was... Anyway.
Yeah.
That was qualifying. And as always... I mean, I see these like silly things on Facebook. Have you ever seen those cartoons of the grid where they like put little silly thought bubbles above them, and
Yeah, I think you showed me one, yeah.
they put like Hamilton in red and stuff like that.
Hmm.
And there's a little like bubble above Lando Norris in first going, "Don't choke, don't choke."
Yeah.
And Verstappen's just got a little thought bubble with an open door picture in it.
Yeah, just I'm checked out.
Well, no, it's just like, oh, I'm next to Norris in first. There's an open door for me.
The door's just going to open up. Well, it didn't this time.
No.
Which is probably quite a big psychological victory for Norris.
Yeah. What came before Singapore? It was Azerbaijan, wasn't it?
Yeah, where Norris slowed for the red flag, or the yellow flag, and ended up in 16th and had to fight back through to 4th.
Yeah, and he overtook Norris on pure pace. I think that I might
Overtook
actually
Verstappen, yeah. That and the getting through the first lap without losing the lead. That might be enough for him to kind of think, I can actually win the championship.
That's actually, yeah, I think that's going to starting to believe kind of moment.
But then it could just take one mistake, one DNF, and Verstappen win, and suddenly it's over.
Yeah, I mean,
It's
I
anyone's
don't
game.
think it's going to be over till Abu Dhabi, to be honest, in terms of maths.
No, I don't think so.
I mean, we've got a sprint weekend coming up, so there's a lot of points on the table for that. and a lot of chance for things to go wrong. And
yeah, should be fun.
Yeah. So, yeah, when all the tyre covers came off, Lewis Hamilton started the race on softs.
Yeah.
And I can kind of see the logic, because the race start, he was wheel to wheel with Max Verstappen.
Yeah.
And I think he was betting on the fact that historically that McLaren has been a really bad starter.
Yes.
And I don't think it's just down to Lando Norris's clutch control. I think it is that car. I mean, Piastri lost out a handful of place. I think he lost out to Hulkenberg on the start.
Yeah. Yeah, so
yeah, Piastri lost one place to Hulkenberg on the start. So I think it was a fairly safe bet from Mercedes that starting on the softs, he could have, with a McLaren in front of him.
Something about the McLaren starting procedure is dodgy. I don't know what it is or if they fixed it, but it's definitely the car more than just Norris.
But unfortunately for Lewis, this time it all hooked up perfectly. He went wheel to wheel with Verstappen, cleanly lost the place without anybody flying off the track or bouncing over each other's halos or anything.
Yep.
Which is probably a bit of a first as well.
Yeah, probably.
I think Russell had a really nothingy kind of race.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, Hamilton was complaining all the way through.
About the tyres, yeah.
And about the strategy. And for once, actually, it was a fairly valid comment because he had to pit super early.
Yeah.
And that kind of ruined his race, really, because he pitted super early onto hards. And then somehow he had to make the hards work, really, keep them going for a hell of a long time.
Yeah. I'm just watching the restart. So Russell kind of blocked Piastri, and that's where he lost the place to Hulkenberg.
What, the start, you mean?
Yeah. The very start. Russell kind of covered him off, and he had to back out, and then Hulkenberg slipped through.
Oh, no. Did you hear? There was a lot of chatter about the start.
Yes.
And about Colapinto.
Because he absolutely dive bombed down the outside or the inside.
And Albon, I think, was a bit annoyed.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, he's a racing driver without a drive next year. He's got to write his CV.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he made up places. He was super aggressive in a very tight circuit with walls and fences down both sides, and everybody survived.
Yeah.
And there wasn't even a thing where the stewards looked at it and went, "Oh, that was a bit close," or "Oh, that person had to brake to get out of it." It was none of that. It was super clean.
Yeah.
And it was. I think Albon was a bit annoyed because he just sailed straight past him.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a bit like Magnussen with nothing to lose, except that he wants to carry on in Formula One, so...
Yeah, I mean, what are they going to do? Fire him?
Yeah. Well, they can't really. He's done nothing wrong, and he was... I think at the end of the race, he was within seconds of taking that place off Perez.
Yeah? Where did he end up?
11th.
It was 11th, yeah.
And he was just behind.
Perez
he was closing.
yeah.
I think he was closing in on Perez as well.
Yeah.
Some bits about the race were super, maybe depressing. But there was a bit at the beginning where they were before the first round of pit stops, where they were saying to Lando Norris, "Oh, we want, I think, 10 seconds of lead by mid."
By halfway.
Yeah, by halfway or by no, I think it was mid-teens of laps. We need this much lead.
Yeah.
And Norris was just "Oh, okay," and then he did it within 3 laps.
Yeah, he really, once he put the hammer down, the gap just arrived.
And I think even Horner said it's a bit humiliating, really, when the person you're fighting against can just go, "Oh, how many seconds of lead do you want by lap 15? Okay, yeah, I'll just dial it up a bit and get that." Yeah. And it didn't even look scrappy or like he was straining or anything. It was just okay, we need 15 seconds by lap 15. All right, then.
He did make a couple mistakes here and there.
Yeah, in the post-race briefing, you can see them watching, and he's properly sliding, and they're all
He
kind of going,
almost
"Ooh."
crashes, but he's
Yeah,
got such a gap that it almost doesn't matter.
I think there was a bit of a tangle in the first few laps because when he came in at lap 30, so big was his lead, they were actually debating on the pit wall whether or not to change his front wing.
I think he had very minor front wing damage,
Yeah,
but I think Verstappen pitted first, so actually Norris never lost the lead that whole race.
yeah,
And he did actually have a pit stop to Verstappen.
he actually had enough that the point is that they could have that debate.
Yeah, they could go. It's not like, oh, you'll end up in third or fourth and then you'll be, struggling. It's just, oh, we can change the wing if you want.
Yep. Now, the maths of this whole race becomes really interesting because going into the race, I can't remember, coming out of the race with Lando Norris won and Max Verstappen came second.
Yeah.
So, Lando Norris gained 7 points. But
Yes.
RB, the sister team of
Red Bull.
pitted Daniel Ricciardo at the end onto softs, and he got the fastest lap.
Yeah, lap record as well.
Oh, and everybody was kind of painting it as, oh yeah, that's lovely, that's a kind of goodbye present, even though they've utterly stuffed up his goodbye.
Yeah, because he finished 18th, so what does it really matter? He doesn't even get the point for it.
But he took the point off Lando Norris.
Yeah.
And now, if Norris keeps winning every single race from here till Abu Dhabi, which is statistically unlikely,
But not impossible.
and that's the best he can do, that's his absolute peak best effort, win every race, win every sprint, get the fastest laps, that's what he's able to do.
Yeah.
If he does all of that, he won't be guaranteed the championship, because all Max has to do now is come in second in every race,
Yeah.
and he'll win by 1 point. So in actual fact, sending Ricciardo out to get that fastest lap has had a material change on the championship.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're allowed to, but I'd like the FIA to look and see, was there communication between Christian Horner and...
I'm going to say Franz Tost.
I was going to say, who is
Or
the
Laurent
team boss?
Mekis, maybe.
What's that?
Laurent Mekis, it might be.
Oh, who's the Japanese guy then? He's the Haas one, isn't he?
Yeah, Ayo Komatsu.
Yeah.
Former team principal of AlphaTauri, which is, of course...
Oh, so I'm not actually a million miles away.
Franz Tost used to be, who it is, Laurent Mekis now.
Yeah, I'd love to know if there was any communication between Horner and Mekis.
Yeah.
Because that just seems a bit convenient, doesn't it?
Well, Zach Brown's obviously been... I think he's actually been campaigning against it for a while. But he said nothing's going to change, but it is kind of unfair that the Red Bull Drinks Company has so much money they can actually field 2 separate F1 teams.
And in a way, you can't really negotiate against it, because what if you had 2 team bosses who used to work together and were still friends?
Yeah.
Or engine suppliers. What if it was a Mercedes situation and they said, look, Williams, you're out of the points, how about you take this fastest lap off us?
But, I mean, that hasn't happened, because when Mercedes were, fighting with Verstappen for the championship,
Yeah.
Williams never really did anything, or McLaren.
No.
Whereas, whenever they came up to an RB, or a Toro Rosso it was then, you know that they would defend against Hamilton, because that relationship is a lot closer than it is with other teams and engine suppliers.
What I'm saying is it's very hard to legislate against, to actually say,
Yeah.
oh, no, you shouldn't do this. It's like, what, you shouldn't have a team go out for the fastest lap if they can?
Again, that's why Zach Brown's saying it's not going to change, because what can they say?
Yeah.
But I think he just wants people to know if we lose, it's because they were playing dirty.
Which, unfortunately, has kind of haunted Red Bull in this particular campaign of winning championships.
Yeah.
all the way from 2021. They had an overspend in 21 for 22's car.
Yeah, because they were, I think, pushing so hard up to, 2021 to win that championship.
Although I did see somewhere that the overspend would have been negated or wouldn't have happened if they'd allocated costs out into the correct categories or something. So
yeah, it wasn't it wasn't like they spent an extra 30-40 million to make the car faster.
yeah,
It was quite a minor kind of administrative issue.
but they are the team that all these kind of issues just follow around, don't they?
Well, I mean, they had the Abu Dhabi 21, which everybody knows now.
Yeah.
They kind of, they've had lots of weird controversies, obviously, in 2023, 2024, with the whole Christian Horner thing and the massive infighting.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like they're very operationally stable.
No, but bizarrely, I also read somewhere that what makes Mercedes and Red Bull the two teams that have absolutely dominated for the last 10 years, give or take.
Last 15 years, really.
Oh yeah, it was Red Bull before then.
It's been, 4 years of Red Bull, 7 years of Mercedes, 4 years of Red Bull, basically.
But what's done that is, who was the team principal of Red Bull for that time?
Christian Horner.
Who was the team principal of Mercedes for that time?
Toto Wolff.
Who was the team principal of Ferrari?
Well, you started off with Maurizio Arrivabene, I think.
Yeah, Arrivabene, Binotto.
I think it was a guy before him.
Yeah.
And then it was Binotto, and now it's, what's his face?
Vasseur.
Yeah.
But that's the point, you see.
They've chopped and changed. I mean, Alpine have had a different team principal every other race.
Yeah. It's having that kind of stability and that long term.
Yeah, so it was Domenicali.
That was it, Domenicali.
08 till 14. Then it was Mattiacci for 1 year. Then Arrivabene, then Binotto, then Vasseur.
Yeah, which is why I think you've had these kind of two teams dominating, because they've got stability.
Yeah.
Ah, right. I read something that Fernando Alonso said that actually made sense. Well, not that he doesn't often, but he can be a bit outspoken. This race was now the longest streak since 02 or 03 that we've had a race without a safety car.
Huh.
And Alonso has a theory as to why, and to be honest, we should listen really, because it's Alonso.
Yeah.
He says these modern cars, with the combination of ground effect and the slightly weak, shall we say, Pirelli tyres, vulnerable Pirelli tyres, he said the way to win races on these is to drive at 90% of the car's capacity. Because he said, in modern racing, you've got the ground effect, you're managing the tyres to see how long you can make them last. We keep talking about like tyre whisperers. You've got one eye on the fuel consumption to make sure you're not pushing too hard. If you're at about 90% of how fast you could absolutely hammer time it, you'll win races.
Yeah.
But what that means is if incidents happen, you've got quite a lot of capacity to scoop it back up and not go into the barriers. And that actually explains quite a few things.
Yeah.
Like when they spoke to Norris over the radio, they said, "What are you running at?" He said 6. And what that meant was, effort-wise, I'm at 6 out of 10.
Yeah. Which is quite low, really.
Well, yeah. It also explains, I think, why both Ricciardo and Hamilton have had a huge dip in form.
Because they're hustlers.
Yeah. Hamilton, if you tell him hammer time, he will put probably just over 100% into that car. He will take it past where it really can go.
Yeah.
And absolutely push it and have it sliding and twitching and gathering up. And that's not how you win races now. I mean, Ricciardo's trademark was being last of the late breakers.
Yeah, I mean, the absolute ridiculous dive bombs.
Yeah. And then just taking too much speed into the corner, braking too hard, and just somehow making it work.
Yeah.
Well, that's not driving at 90%.
No.
That's not, coaxing the tyres and being gentle with it and keeping it all under control. And I think that really does explain why at least those two, and probably other people as well around them, have kind of, slip backwards, and why a lot of the new drivers like your Norrises, your Piastris, your Leclercs even, and Verstappen, who are all a bit younger, and aren't quite so set in their ways, can kind of go, oh, okay, that's how we got to race, that's how I race. They're still developing as drivers.
Yeah. I mean,
so yeah, I think that explains an awful lot of what we're seeing at the moment in racing.
Yeah. Well, Alain Prost said that the trick to winning is to win as slowly as possible.
Yeah.
And, he won many, many, many races and championships. Partly because back then the cars were so unreliable that if you drove a bit more gently and didn't push as hard as you could, like if you were Senna, for example, then the car would just kind of last.
Yeah.
And it would last through the whole season and build up, even if you didn't necessarily win every single race.
And I think as well, even though I did say it was like about the modern crop of Pirelli tyres, I think whatever era that you're racing in, if you can make the tyres last a bit longer, that opens up more strategy options for the beat guys on the pit wall.
And tyre strategy has been very powerful this season.
Yeah, well, it is part of the sport, but yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, people like George Russell are very good on tyres, and that has shown in their results.
Yeah.
One thing we noticed about the Singapore race that we watched, the top 7 drivers finished on the same lap, and everybody from Alonso downwards was lapped.
Yeah.
But those top 7 drivers were 1 minute and 36 apart, and the only 2 who were anywhere close to competing was Russell in 4th, holding off Charles Leclerc in 5th. The rest were pretty much 20 seconds apart.
Yeah.
I think Hamilton was 11 seconds ahead of Sainz in 7th. So 6th and 7th were 11 seconds apart. 4th and 5th were a second apart, second and a half. That was going to get interesting. And the rest were 20 seconds apart. It was a massively spread out field.
Yeah, which is really weird.
I mean, it's weird that
Piastri had a very different race because he was coming up from 5th and kind of doing strategy and trying to overcut the likes of Russell and Hamilton. Whereas Norris and Verstappen were kind of running away from that whole battle.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Hamilton's strategy. To be fair, Ferrari had a much better race than they did at qualifying because they turned a 9th and a 10th to a 5 and a 7th.
Yeah, definitely. That's, it's a much better result. And I think they did that mostly at the expense of Mercedes.
Yeah.
Started 3rd, finished 6th, started 4th, finished 4th. That's not much kind of progression for Mercedes, is it?
I think they said they're going to bring big upgrades to Austin.
Yeah, it'd be nice to see them back at the front. I mean, what Norris really needs now is either his teammate to get absolutely on it and with him.
And ahead of Verstappen, crucially.
Yeah. Or, more importantly, maybe not more importantly, but also if Mercedes or Ferrari or both of them can pull their finger out.
Get back ahead of Verstappen at least. I don't want to say Red Bull because Perez was like 10th.
Yeah.
And he's been kind of struggling.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, it's one Norris victory to a Verstappen DNF. Suddenly the gap comes down from 53 to 28.
Yeah.
Which is like...
it's 50. I think it's 52 now, the gap.
53 I've got.
Oh, hold on. Results. Driver standings.
My spreadsheet's wrong.
331 to 279.
I've got Norris on 278. I must have missed the fastest lap somewhere.
Yeah, so it's 21... 52.
Yeah, 52.
But if it's 52, they'll finish on exactly the same.
If they finish 1 and 2 every race. But if Norris gets a win and fastest lap and Verstappen doesn't score, he literally cuts it in half.
Yeah, and that's when it's going to get... Well, don't forget there's also sprints coming up, so that's when it's going to get super exciting.
But there's only a 1 point difference between each sprint position.
Yeah.
So again, if it's a first and second, then he may be... Well, he'll gain 1 point.
Norris is now the only one of the rest who's won more than 2 races, so he's really pulling himself ahead of the competition.
Yeah. I mean, the drive in Baku and this drive, to me, were both kind of champions drives, actually.
Yeah, it's like his mindset has just shifted slightly.
Which is encouraging and pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I think he wasn't quite serious enough before.
Yeah, around Miami, I think he still had a bit of that, I've won, but, it was a safety car victory sort of thing.
Yeah, and he was a bit like, oh yeah, I mean, not to be disparaging to people of your age, but he was acting a bit like a kind of, are you millennials or Gen Z, where he was like, oh, it's all about like the brand and the Instagram and chatting to fans and.
Yeah, I mean, Hamilton does that as well.
Yeah, but I think if Hamilton had a sniff of a world title, he'd be like laser focused and.
Well, we'll see next year.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Yeah, so Norris ran away with it really in terms of the race. Yeah, like we say, it's a bit of a weird race because Norris was just so utterly dominant. And yet, while he was dominant and there were big gaps, the whole thing was kind of edge of the seat because it's such a difficult circuit.
Yeah.
Mercedes got some flack as well. Because after the race, they said both their drivers had heat stroke and couldn't do any press.
Yeah.
And everybody else did their press commitments, which is a bit weird because Lewis has been saying after one of the other really hot races, and they're talking.
Yeah, Baku, I think.
No, I think it was earlier than that in the year where people were complaining about how difficult it was.
Bahrain, Saudi.
Yeah, somewhere like that.
Spain, maybe? I don't remember.
Somebody actually nearly passed out in their car and somebody retired because of the heat. And
that was last year. That was Qatar.
Yeah.
That was almost dangerously hot.
And Lewis was like, oh yeah, we're professional athletes, train for it and suck it up, basically.
Yeah, it's weird.
And again, that comes back to the safety car thing. There's now no brake. So I'm not saying a safety car is a brake, but it's lower speed and there's less to think about. And
yeah, well, I think if the FIA can postpone a race because it's raining and there's no visibility, why can't they kind of postpone it if it's so hot that they can't guarantee people will be kind of concentrating properly?
Or safe, yeah.
It's a similar thing, really, isn't it?
You say that, but when did they last postpone a race because it was raining? It was Belgium 21, where they literally refused, and in the end they did 2 laps under a safety car and called it a race.
Yeah. They changed the rules, I think. I think now you have to have a certain number of green flag laps to count it as even a half points race. You have to have, I think, 25% race distance.
Under green flag.
Or was it 5 or 10 laps under green flag? So not safety car.
Yeah, my point is the FIA hardly ever cancel races.
Yeah.
Because, they've got tickets sold,
They do postpone sessions if there's lots of rain, I feel like, quite frequently.
Yeah, but not the actual scoring points
itself,
race.
Yeah. Yeah. But, I mean, the Mercedes seat has been a problem for them. They've been complaining about overheating in it.
Actually, you're right. Every session, doesn't matter where they are, they're saying they've got too much. Probably just the design and the packaging is putting too much heat into the back of the cockpit.
Yeah, they might be trying to do weight saving in that area and just shaving it down.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah. What else has happened outside of the race then, since the race?
Well, Ricardo has retired.
Well, been fired, basically.
Lawson is in, which is quite exciting, really. Is he a New Zealander?
Yes. So, the proportion of Antipodean drivers stayed the same.
Yeah.
But yeah, and he did sub in for Ricardo last year, and he was pretty decent.
Oh yeah, like I say, it's another new driver coming up as a whole. Oh, it's quite nice in a way that you've got your Alonsos and your Hamiltons who are knocking on the door of 40 or well past it.
Yeah.
And you've got quite established drivers in their 30s, and then you've got new drivers who are even teenagers and in their early 20s.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Behrman, you've got Colapinto, you've got next year Doohan, Antonelli,
Behrman,
Lawson.
Yeah, even Piastri's still quite young.
Yeah, he's still fairly fresh. He's probably before, I think, Behrman and Colapinto started subbing in. I think he was the least experienced on the grid. Maybe I don't know.
It is really nice to see that kind of whole broad range of ages across the grid. It's not just a sport like all 20 to 30-year-olds.
I think it's a bit like 2019 when we had Albon, Norris and Russell all come in at once.
Yeah.
And it was a bit like this could be the future of the sport, and it kind of was, to be honest.
Yeah, and again we've got the similar thing.
Yeah. I mean, we could be seeing Behrman and Ferrari eventually.
I think that's his overall goal.
If I was Ferrari, I'd be looking at him for after Hamilton.
Yeah.
Because by then, Leclerc will be almost a veteran. He'll be kind of wise and experienced.
I mean, I read this thing about Behrman, and there's still actually... I mean, okay, rewind a bit. When Rosberg won his world title and retired, the reason he gave for retiring was when he saw he had a shot mathematically at the title, he literally kind of shut everything else out of his life. I think he put his girlfriend on hold for 6 months.
Because Hamilton had a very bad start to that season.
Yeah. And he, told his family he'd talked to them at the end of the season, same with his friends, and he dedicated everything, and he got a world title out of it. And then he sat back and he looked and he thought, I don't ever want to do that again. And I'm now a F1 world top champion. Well, he's basically made for life.
Yeah.
So he retired from the sport.
It's not worth it.
What's that?
It's not worth it, he thought.
Yeah, not worth going for multiples where you have to just dedicate everything to it.
And there's no way Hamilton would have let it happen again, let's be real.
No, and Verstappen's the same. He lives racing. He does his main computer games he plays are online racing. He's just absolutely consumed. But yeah, to come back to Behrman, when Behrman was 16, and I still think about my kids that I know and what they were like at 16.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When Behrman was 16, he got signed up as a Ferrari development driver, and he moved out to Italy on his own. I don't even know if he knew Italian or not, or if he had a minder. But he left his family and friends behind and went, this is it.
Yeah.
And now he's 18, 19?
19. Oh, God.
And he's on the F1 grid.
And
I kind of look at that level of dedication and think, if there's a skill there to back it up, which there appears to be, that is a very unbelievably powerful combination.
Yeah.
That ability to have the focus to go, okay, nothing else in my life matters apart from this.
Yeah. The singular focus, kind of similar to what's his name? Where's the... Yeah, well, Verstappen grew up in that, racing environment, singular focus with his dad.
Yeah.
And his mum was a racing driver as well.
Yeah, it's literally everything, isn't it? And again, I think that comes back to what I said about Lando at the beginning of the year. I think at the beginning of the year, Lando Norris was a bit like, oh, cool, I'm an F1 driver, I've got my brand, I've got my socials, I've got this, I've got that. And I think now as the maths is coming to him, he's a bit more like, oh, if I really knuckle down, I could do this.
Yeah.
Oh, God, right. I just remembered Toyota have signed up as a technical partner to Haas. Now, this is very interesting because Toyota were a major manufacturer.
Yeah.
They actually had a works team for 7 years, not that long ago.
Yeah, sort of, oh God, what did Toyota turn into?
My office program hasn't got it as one of my recents. I've got a spreadsheet that lists all the teams and roughly what they turned into. I must admit, it gets a bit shady around the 80s because there were so many teams and manufacturers.
So 2009 to 2007 were Toyota. I remember they had like Ralf Schumacher, Jarno Trulli, sorts of people. What did they turn into? Let me have a look.
Oh, hold on, I've got my spreadsheet. You've got your spreadsheet, I've got mine.
I've got Wikipedia.
Yeah. Where are they?
Sauber. They turned into BMW Sauber.
Oh, see, I've got them separate. No, they didn't. Sauber started in 1993.
It says here Toyota's grid spot in 2010 was taken by Sauber, who competed under the name BMW Sauber despite BMW's withdrawal from the sport.
Oh.
What happened to Toyota in your thing?
They just stopped in 2009.
I think maybe turned into a new. So what? So did they just become
I've got them
teams?
2002 to 2009, a 7-year run.
Yeah, and that's it.
And Sauber started in 93 and have been going ever since, although they're now turning into Audi in a couple of years.
Still the same team though.
Yeah, still the same people and the same factory.
So so there were 23 drivers on the grid in 2009. And then that became...
How are there 23?
Oh, wait, it went to number 23 because they skipped 13.
Oh, okay.
Because they're silly.
11 teams. Anyway, while you're mulling over that,
that's weird.
the thing that interests me is that Haas are going to keep, at the moment, Ferrari as an engine supplier.
Yes.
And Toyota as a technical consultancy. And probably a named sponsor.
Technical partner.
Yeah. So while working with Ferrari engines and gearboxes and all of the kind of package, as it were, the electronics and the batteries and the MG UK, they're still going to have the technical advice of Toyota. Now, given that Toyota, well, TGR, Toyota Gazoo Racing.
That's their, racing division. They race in, like, Le Mans with that name and stuff.
World Endurance Cars.
Yeah.
Given that they are a completely different outfit to Ferrari, who are owned by Fiat, you kind of got to wonder how many of like the trade secrets are going to be.
It's a little bit interesting, yeah.
I'm wondering if it's a slow takeover and we're going to see Haas Toyota and Toyota returning to F1, maybe in the new regs in 2026.
Yeah. Could be interesting if they're trying to sort of counter Audi, maybe.
Yeah. Right, before we go...
before you move on...
Yeah.
Maybe it's... maybe this is not maybe appropriate to say or something.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's because of Io Komatsu, who is, of course, Japanese.
Well, yeah.
I wonder if that maybe helped... If that influenced Toyota to try and bring a bit of Japanese presence back to Formula One, because it's been a while.
Yeah, and
there's Honda as well, isn't there?
Yeah. How do you spell his first name?
Ayao, I think.
I was having a quick look to see if he did have any. The Japanese Formula One engineer and team principal.
Started out with BAR.
Renault Lotus.
He's just an engineer who became a team principal.
So he hasn't got any experience with Toyota in the past, is what I was looking for.
No. But I do wonder how far Toyota are going to take it.
It'll be interesting to see, certainly, whether they'll become...
like a works team again, they'll take over. But also, at the very least, it's like the best sponsorship Haas have ever got in their entire career.
Yeah.
So hopefully it helps them out.
Oh, wow. Komatsu is one of the better team principals.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a degree in automotive engineering from Loughborough.
Yeah.
And a PhD in vehicle dynamics and control.
Wow.
So he actually knows what he's doing and he understands the car.
I would make everybody call me Doctor on the grid if I was Dr. Helmut Marko, I think.
Oh yeah, Doc.
Yeah, I could be Doctor of...
Yeah.
I probably could do a PhD in motorsport, actually, if I wanted to. It's not terribly difficult to move over.
Yeah, a lot of airflow and physics and stuff.
It's not a million miles away.
Anyway.
One more very important piece of news.
Yeah.
The most important news in Formula One ever.
Yeah.
They've officially announced a partnership with Hot Wheels.
Oh, wow.
So finally there's Formula One miniatures that I can actually afford. Like proper legit F1 cars.
Hot Wheels collecting is massive as well. I know you're being sarcastic, but that is actually quite a big...
I'm not being at all sarcastic. I want F1 Hot Wheels.
That is really funny.
They've got a picture. It's got a little, looks like a prototype sort of 26 car with generic F1 branding and Hot Wheels on it. But there's also a mini Pirelli tyre rig with a load of soft tyres on it, like a little cart.
Oh yeah, I'm just looking at the page now. There's the first one with just Hot Wheels and F1 branding, yeah.
I hope some of the teams get involved and I can see Red Bull doing it.
I can see McLaren have already got a Lego tie-up, so...
Yeah, could be an issue there.
Yeah.
Yes, but I will be buying those as soon as they're available.
Yep. Oh, you get 3 sets of swappable tyres with your Hot Wheels.
You can swap
red, yellow,
tyres?
and white. What's that?
You can swap the tyres.
Yeah.
You can do
soft,
pretend pit stops.
Soft, medium, and hard.
Awesome.
Sorry, we've got massively carried away by toy cars here.
Yeah. Anyway, I think...
Yeah, I read a really long article about why Felipe Massa thinks he should have the 2008 world title.
Yes.
There's 2 ways you could look at this.
Yeah.
In the 2008 Singapore Grand Prix, which was the first one actually,
yeah,
Renault cheated.
Yes.
By telling Nelson Piquet Jr. to crash at a very good time for Alonso, so Alonso could win.
Yeah.
Now, if you say, oh, he cheated, he broke the rules, the race is null and void because there's no way of telling what would have happened.
Yeah.
You write off all the results, and Hamilton came in third and scored 6 points.
Mm-hmm.
So all of a sudden Massa becomes world champion because, as everybody knows, Brazil 2008, they actually celebrated Massa being world champion. And then Hamilton came round the last corner ahead of Jarno Trulli and got 5th and became champion by 1 point.
Or was it Glock?
Oh, maybe it was Glock.
Is that Glock, said Martin Brundle. And it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the other way of looking at it is Renault cheated.
Yes.
So if you say, right, DQ for Alonso.
Yes.
Because he benefited from a cheat. Then Hamilton goes from 3rd to 2nd.
Mm-hmm. And he takes the championship by more points.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And really, and it's kind of, obviously if you're Massa, you kind of go, well, the first option is right because the whole race was ruined. And
it probably affected strategy and stuff. I think Massa DNF'd because, if I remember, he left the pits with a fuel hose attached.
He didn't DNF. You're right. They botched the pit stop. He had the fuel hose attached. He had to come back. He got done for an unsafe release and got penalised. And I think he had to stop outside Jarno Trulli's garage. And they had to pull the fuel hose out. And then he got a penalty on top of that. So he finished 13th or 14th.
He qualified first and finished 13th, did Massa.
Yeah.
Let me actually see what happened to Massa in the report.
Yeah, but you see, the other thing is, it's kind of like, there's no way of saying if that had been a regular pit stop, not a safety car one, would the pit crew still have completely messed it up anyway?
He was given a drive-through for unsafe release.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thing is, the FIA are not going to give it back to him, really, are they?
No.
Because I think there's every season you can make an argument for every race.
No, I think a lot of races are clean.
Yeah, a lot of races. But I'm saying suddenly you set a precedent then of like Hamilton could turn up and go, what about Abu Dhabi? Or Prost, I think Prost was something like 10 points away from being an 8-time champion. Or if they hadn't had the weird point system where you only take certain races, he would have been like a 6 or 7-time champion because he was that close.
Yeah, and there were things like Senna and Prost even actually Schumacher and Damon Hill colliding. It's always...
There's always, again, if you set that precedent, suddenly you could change almost every championship.
Yeah.
Hamilton could even say, what about this one race in 2016? Why don't you classify me in this one and then I can win that championship off Rosberg?
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to do it because they don't want to set that precedent.
No, I mean, it did kind of help me understand what Massa is on about. I mean, in a way, I think it's the kind of psychological scars like Hamilton had after Abu Dhabi.
Yeah.
Where, like, you know, literally, I mean, I remember watching it. Literally, they were celebrating in the pit lane. Everybody was hugging each other in the red jumpsuits in Ferrari going, oh my God, we got a world champion.
And then they looked up at the screens.
And it was like, oh.
And I've seen video of it. It's quite amazing to watch. Yeah, I mean, it's unbelievable. It's like a film. You couldn't write it.
Oh, but people wouldn't believe you if you put that in a film, would they?
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous. And then there's like a video of everybody standing silent, and then one Ferrari mechanic like punches a wall and a sign falls down, which is quite kind of like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I kind of get that. Anyway, that's a bit of history for you.
Mm-hmm.
Next week we're going to the Circuit of the Americas.
Formula 1 is, we're not.
They're not. Formula 1 is going to the Circuit of America.
Yeah, COTA.
I'm actually looking forward to it in a weird way because it's a real racetrack.
Yeah.
It's big and it's swooping and it's got runoff areas and gravel and...
I mean, we had Singapore, Baku, street tracks.
Yeah.
Italy is just a drag strip, basically. Netherlands is quite twisty. Belgium was the last time we had a big grand swooping track like US.
Yeah, I mean, I think maybe it's just because we've had Azerbaijan followed by Singapore. It's a bit kind of,
I do like both of those tracks, though.
Oh, yeah, I wouldn't swap it for the world, but...
Yeah, it's nice to be, big, 20-foot runoff areas, massive, they can kind of push a bit more then, I think.
Yeah, and you've got proper overtaking, a nice wide track. And
it's a sort of underrated track, I think. It's kind of quietly quite good fun to watch with the S's in the middle and the long straights.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And we've got a sprint weekend as well, so it's kind of trying to keep up with, are we in practice or...
But it's quite late in the evening. So the sprint's at 7. The qualifying is at 11 p.m, which is a bit much.
Oh, does that mean I have to stay up till midnight?
I mean, I will, but...
Yeah, I know I will as well.
The race is then at 8 p.m. on the Sunday.
8 till 10 is doable. When's the sprint?
That's cool. Sprint quali is at 10:30 on the Friday.
Yeah.
And then the sprint is at 7 till 8.
Oh, that's all.
That's pretty... It's nice.
It's not like Australia or anything, is it?
No, waking up at 3 a.m. for Japan.
Yeah.
Because they don't have floodlights, so they can't do night races.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, I think...
Yeah. I think
it's time to say goodbye. Thank you for listening.
Mm-hmm.
If you want a nice mystery novel, give me a shout. If you're watching this on YouTube or listening on YouTube, check out Official Tibby's other videos.
Yep.
Thank you for listening. We'll be back probably not 3 weeks after the next race. All the excitement from the USA Grand Prix.
Yeah, it looks like it's a double header with Mexico.
Yep.
Or is it a triple header? I think it's a triple header. Yikes. We'll have to be on it.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay then. Thank you and goodbye.
Thanks, bye.